You are not seeing double. It is me with my soul sister, Stephanie, and we just happen to be kind of matching. I love how this happens so often. Stephanie and I happen to look a little bit alike and have a lot of it in common. So I'm really excited to have her come and double down really on her expertise with you all today. So just so you get a good picture of exactly who Stephanie is, she's the founder of the Rolling Mat Mobile Yoga Studio, which is based in Atlanta, Georgia. And since she started the mobile yoga adventure, Stephanie has been shaking up the yoga industry by providing well-rounded, community-driven yoga experiences, as well as corporate wellness programs throughout her city and the world. And over the last few years, she's gained a lot of momentum and been able to partner with folks like Whole Foods, Keller Williams, AT&T, and lots of breweries in Atlanta, which, again, you'll see the commonalities unfold here. Stephanie has traveled the world, bringing her creative pop-up studio and concepts to festivals, breweries, and other large-scale events. And this year, she's taken all of her knowledge and experience from being a small business owner in the yoga industry and is helping other yoga teachers do the same and really helping them not only build their own events, but also partner in strategic ways and land corporate clients. And that's what I'm excited to chat a little bit about you with, but welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you so much, Hannah. It's great to be back.
I know, seeing your face again. Stephanie and I got to work together for over a year. We had these Zoom meetings and I coached her and we really got this thing rolling, pun intended. So for folks that haven't, maybe listened to the other episode we did together or gotten to know you yet, will you tell us just a little bit about what inspired you to take yoga onto the road? Like, is this always what you knew you had to be when you grew up, or what's your story?
It is not at all what I thought I would be doing when I grew up. When I was younger, I thought I was gonna move to New York and work for MTV. I'm a wanderluster, so taking it on the road, that was a big thing for me. And when I lost my corporate job out of college, after my own clarity and self-reflection, decided I wanted to go into business for myself. And I just really had to think about the main things that I love and understand how I could put them into a business together. So travel, music, and yoga have always been consistent parts of my life. Yoga, of course, like a little bit later in life when I was in college, but music and travel, especially like even as a kid, big part of my life with my family and just all of the activities that I did. So, and I knew also that I just wanted to shake it up. I wanted to shake things up, and I didn't want to be another cookie cutter yoga studio, even though there's nothing wrong with yoga studios. But as we even see now, that business model is changing drastically. And I feel
in the era of COVID, absolutely.
Yeah, I feel for my yogis that own studios because especially in Atlanta, they're opening and they're closing and whatever. So I'm very fortunate that I actually don't have a brick and mortar.
Yeah. You followed your passions. And I really want to pause on that comment, how you said, okay, I was in a moment of transition of my life, not in the corporate space anymore. And you looked at the things that have been true for you, like what brings you joy, and you figured out how to build a business around that. I recently, just this weekend, actually, I was chatting with a high school friend. I grew up in small town Wisconsin, and she made this kind of flippant comment. It wasn't from her. She had heard it, and I'm doing my best not to dwell on it, but it just came up when you mentioned this. She said, yeah, I was talking to so-and-so, and they made some joke about maybe Hannah's the one that has it figured out. Maybe we really should just do what we love and follow joy, like very jokingly. And so I want to highlight this, maybe to protect my own ego and process that, like, oh, that's how people think or talk about me. Like, I'm the crazy one for doing what I love. And I think that Stephanie is just such a great example of being able to really take music, travel, yoga, and make a thriving business out of that, a mobile yoga studio. Again, nothing that was handed to us in college, nothing that our parents did, but is 1,000% viable and needed in this day and age.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I feel you because I've definitely been looked at kind of the crazy one from really all of my loved ones. They're like, how are you going to make this work? I'm like, well, I'm going to figure it out. And, at the end of the day, I do. All the naysayers that doubted me before, and some of the people that still don't really understand. I mean, here I am. And I've come a long way since you and I started working together.
Yeah,
So
there's so much delight in being able to just show them wrong, show yourself right. I don't know if it's about that in any way, but really doubling down on your joy is admirable, and I'm glad that you are sticking to it and didn't let naysayers or challenges change your belief in that your dream life was possible. So now that you are here and you've got those business things figured out, you've been able to turn around and help other people do the same, which is really the dream, right? Like really making the impact, not just for yourself, but now for other yoga teachers who might have similar passions or things that they want to achieve because you figured it out. So how did you transition or add onto your business model? You were doing the events, you have the mobile studio. How did you add coaching and mentorship into that model?
yeah, well, through being out in the community and being as active in the community as I was in networking, I came across, there was actually a lot of yoga teachers that would come to my events that I would have, and they would just admire the fact that, wow, like you're mobile. I mean, this is awesome, and I heard for too long teachers tell me, I couldn't figure out how to make it work in order to make ends meet. So I'm just back at a corporate job, and it broke my heart. It really hurt. And I knew that I wanted to be a place of support. I wanted to, I guess, if you will, kind of capitalize on the impact that I was having in really helping yoga teachers, who are suffering from like feeling like they want to give up because they're not able to make a sustainable and profitable business out of it, or having that imposter syndrome of feeling like they don't know enough, or they're only 200 hours, they need to get an additional 300 hours to be good, or be like appreciated. I wanted to be that place of support, and it started out really big, and then it niched into what I know best.
Yeah. Which is corporate. Yeah. And this
Yeah.
is true for every industry, right? Like there tends to be the linear line of thinking. Like you have to work harder, you have to push for it, you have to get more hours, you have to work harder. Like, in the yoga industry, right? Cool. You get your 200-hour yoga teacher training, and then you have to do 500 hours. And like, it's this, like, it's almost like a corporate ladder, even in the yoga space,
It
this like
is.
attachment to achievement and doing more. And
Yeah.
what I love about entrepreneurship and the way that you and I work is like, let's work smarter, not harder. And
Exactly.
so finding ways to help people achieve their dreams without the blue check mark on their Instagram, without the million hours behind them, but just with that passion and expertise that you already have. So I just made that connection.
And it's cool you said something about the ladder too, because it's like, yeah, it is kind of like climbing some sort of corporate ladder, but like you don't learn anything about how to run a successful yoga business in your yoga training. Like they don't do that. They don't teach on that. And I've talked to tons of studios across the nation, and they're like, oh yeah, we talk about like legality and contracts, but that's like about, as far as it goes.
So they keep you out of jail, but they don't really give you a profitable system to work with.
Right. They give you no system. They teach you how to do like 500, sun sal A's.
Yeah. Right. But again, I just want to map this example onto so many other industries.
Yeah.
We're both yoga teachers. We know how that like piece goes, right? Like you get the meat of it, like how to run the class, but then you don't know how to get people to your class. Right. Same thing has been true in like speaker trainings that I've done. They're like, this is how you put together your talk. And I'm like, but nobody's listening. Like, it doesn't matter if there's no seats in.
Right. Because you're not reaching an audience. Like, it's like in any business, if you sell to everyone, you sell to no one. If you go and approach it as yoga for everyone, it's really yoga for no one. Like who is you trying to talk to? Because you have to niche so that you can understand what their pain points are and build that know, like, and trust factor with them, and speak directly to what it is that they need.
So would you say for entrepreneurs who want to maybe add an additional stream of income or diversify their business model, is the first step choosing a niche, or what would you say? Where to start?
I think that you really need to like first just kind of have some clarity with it and understand who it is that you want to help and why you want to help them, and really sit in that. And it's just like you told me, like your why should make you cry, you know. And I think that that's really where to start. You know, I always go to the whiteboard when I'm like trying to think of something, and I just like write down, okay, like write down your avatar, like who is your dream client, why do you want to help them, and then start doing some research on, you know, what do they suffer from, what do they, you know, what do they need, what are their desires, what are their dreams and their ambitions, and see if it resonates with you, and then pick the niche. But I do think that there is that step before of really understanding who you want to impact and why, before you just like go into like, yeah, I want to teach corporate 9 to 5 employees. You know, maybe that's not really what you want, but you think it's good, but you know, um, so I think sitting in that first, and then will allow you to understand your audience before you even start doing any market research on them.
Yeah, absolutely. I like this, like going to the whiteboard, not the like graveyard of free webinars and books and how she did it, how they did it
Yeah.
overnight, like that whole rabbit hole, but really like tapping into yourself and
Mm-hmm.
journaling that out and getting that out onto your own paper. I love that.
Yeah. And that's how you get stuck in that like comparison wheel too. When you constantly like go and look at other people's work, you're like, wow, they're doing like a really amazing job. Like I don't have any of this. I don't have any of this stuff. Like to admire someone is one thing, like being able to like observe versus absorb. Um,
I love
that's
that.
powerful, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so take us through the steps. I think people are like, cool, like I can get clear on my why. I mean, we've heard this before, right? And take some time to reflect on what you actually want and that thing you want to be able to share with people. How then do we take that to some of these high-end corporate clients or retainer clients that are going to be, yeah, like that high ticket, high impact type of relationship?
Mm. Well, it really starts with your list of warm market, like people that you know, because the first step is discovering who the hell to talk to. A lot of people think like, oh, I'm just gonna, you know, reach out to HR and see if I can get my program in here, or like, you know, there's a lot of like motivational speaker, teamwork engagement type people that like to go into companies and really boost the morale, you know. But it's like, who do they talk to?
Yeah.
And it varies across the board. It just depends on the organization. But I always try to, I mean, I've never had luck with HR, so I always busted out of the seams of HR, and I would go to people that I knew.
Yeah.
Like, so it's good to like draft your warm market list, and just because you'd be surprised at how many people you actually know
Yeah.
that side of an organization that you would enjoy like giving value to, whatever it may be. And, you know, pick their brain a little bit and see if you can get a point of contact of who would hire like an outside vendor such as yourself.
I love this. And I want to pause because we'll say it again, like start with who you know, right? It's like the Eleanor Roosevelt quote, like start where you are with what you have and what you can do. I recently looked at some numbers. I've been in business for 4 years, and I wanted to really understand where people came from, because I've tried a lot of things like Facebook ads, podcasts, Facebook group. And I realized that almost 20% of my clients came from social interactions. So like my own yoga teacher training, a few of my clients I just met traveling because we did a year
Yeah.
backpacking, and people were like, how can you do this? And so I think it's an overlooked massive opportunity. Think for yourself. If you could add 20% more business to your bottom line this year, like moving forward, like look around, quit trying to look for all the bells and whistles and the
Right.
automation and the quick way to get them. Like, who do you know? What referrals can you
Yeah.
ask for?
A
Right?
lot of people, yeah, a lot of people want to start like with me specifically. They're like, well, I want to like get really good with LinkedIn and like start reaching out to people on LinkedIn, you know? And I'm like, well, who do you know that might be in biz, like that you've met at a networking event before, or an event before, that maybe you could look them up on LinkedIn and see what their role is. Like start that way instead of just trying to do this like cold market outreach. And you know, too, what you say or what you just said, like I got majority of my corporate clients came from my community events. Someone within the company came to my event. They loved what I did. My class was already like a demo for them, and they were like, we want to do a wellness program. you know, like what would that look like?
Amazing. So your own like yoga classes, your events, people were coming to, I
Yeah.
remember when I lived in San Francisco a few years ago, I really tapped into that community and I just started hosting like networking events and definitely got clients from that too. And I think that it's challenging in COVID, right? So those were great things in 2018. How have you taken some of those opportunities online? Because I know it's possible.
Mm.
I'm curious if you've transitioned more of those like networking opportunities, and if others, if they're not in Atlanta or San Francisco or a big city, how they could implement this for themselves.
Yeah, this is fun because it's totally possible. You can still network. There's still networking events going on out there. And I go to 3 virtual networking events a week. And I found them through the Chamber of Commerce in my area, Meetup, and Eventbrite. And they're free right now. Right now they're,
Amazing.
yeah. And I go and you have my polished elevator pitch. Some of them allow you to go into breakout rooms and you can talk for like 2 minutes, like 2 to 3 minutes with everyone in the breakout room. And since then, I've had virtual coffee chats, I mean, with probably about 10 people that work in companies. And it's a
Amazing.
process, they're getting me like contact names I need to talk to. And then another thing that I found super effective is Facebook groups.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought, right? Like Facebook groups, I feel like are really the way of the future. I don't know if anybody watched the Super Bowl last year or anybody remembers, but there was a commercial about Facebook groups. And I just remember how compelling it was. And I'm like, man, that's it right there. So there are ways like, with my mentees, it's kind of a networking strategy that I've started implementing is like build your own corporate related Facebook group, because people on your personal Facebook page, they work in a 9-to-5 job. Like think of them as your like in studio or in class audience. Like for me, like the people that come to my events, they work a 9-to-5 job. I mean, obviously they reached out to me about a wellness program. So start kind of seeing your social media in that, at least your Facebook page in that route, like a strategic tool to use to say like, hey, how's your work-life balance been since COVID, and then get them into a place where you can really nurture them and learn more about what it is that they're struggling with, because so many people are struggling from so many different things right now. And a lot of them don't even realize it until you start to like really talk about it and pull it out of them.
Conversation. That's where it's at. Okay. So to recap, I'm totally with you. First thing is like figure out your why. Who do you want to help? Who do you want to work with and why?
Mm-hmm.
Then start with who you know, like who are the contacts you already have? Who are the connections you can be making? And then, yes, continue that networking, continue to grow the folks that you know in the way Stephanie's talking about, but get them into conversation, right? Like, another mind-blowing thing that I know we worked on so much is like, you don't just like webinars can work, like putting content out, pushing out can work, but there's so much in fostering those intimate relationships. So
Mm-hmm.
when you get people in conversation, opening up to you, like you said, where do you take them? Is there like a special, when we're talking about corporate, sometimes people think it's like a foreign land. Do you talk to them differently? Do you enroll them differently than other coaching clients? What does the conversion look like?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, corporate is, I mean, I speak to the actual decision maker that, that brings me on. So, it's usually definitely like a nurturing kind of back and forth conversation of what it is that they want. Like I always like to have conversations on the phone when it comes to corporate, especially. So I always try to set up a time. And in my email, I'm very direct. I'm like, I have, Thursday from noon to 3 available. Does that time work for you? If not, let me know. But I give them at least something so that they schedule that call with me, because otherwise you're just like following up like, hey, you want to have a call? Like whatever. And then you kind of sound annoying. But, yeah, I go into it asking like, okay, what are the biggest obstacles right now for your employees, for you and for your employees? And, sometimes we have several conversations about it. I send surveys and I get them to the employees to specify like, what do they want to see out of like a yoga class or a workshop? Is it more of like brain nourishing? And you'll find that most companies now, it's not so much the movement, it's more the mental stuff, because that's what people are having a lot of problems with, is like the uncertainty going on. So I meet the company where they are, just as I would a yoga teacher that I talk to for my mentorship program. And then I show them the back end of my awesome virtual portal. and show them how it works so that they really get that like kind of like tangible, almost like feel, about it. And then, we set up a schedule for whatever it is that they're wanting.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there is a lot more collaboration, I would say, when it comes to working with a corporation. So I think a lot of folks listening to this might be used to doing like phone closing or, like enrolling individuals over the phone. And I think it's important to highlight this more back and forth that Stephanie's talking about. That corporations need to feel like this is like custom made, this is tailor made. But in the same breath, I want to say that you can bring that into any sales conversation you have, making the prospect feel like they're a part of the process. You guys are building this out together. This is custom. This is made for them. And
this is your roadmap.
It's your roadmap. You got it. And not having so much of the pressure of like, so you ready to enroll, but really giving them that like autonomy to make a decision, because you're coming from a place of such conviction, like you're prepared, you can help them, you have the answers to the problems they just told you about, right?
Well, and they really respect the fact that like you take the like corporate especially really respect the fact that you take the time to talk to them and address their needs, because a lot of times
don't just pitch.
I'll get on the phone with them. They're like, I haven't even thought about any of these things. Like, this is I just thought it was going to be a yoga class. I didn't realize it was going to be like a brain nourishing workshop and yoga and like nutrition workshops, I mean, especially now that it's virtual, there's like so much value that you can bring.
Okay, I was getting tripped up on my words, but this is the point I really want to drive home. Don't just pitch, right? It's not just you having a presentation. This is what I'm saying. It's that back and forth that Stephanie is explaining so well. It's not just here's my offer. Do you love it? Proposal.
Invest in me. Yeah, right.
It's the back and forth. Okay, amazing. So a question I hear a lot from other folks who have quote unquote retainer clients, meaning they sign up for an ongoing service, they pay you a monthly investment and you just keep working together, which is different than like join my 8-week program, right?
Right.
How do you retain retainer clients? How do you keep that relationship growing and being mutually beneficial once you're in the door?
Yeah. Well, I constantly show up for them. I'm always, I'm following up every month, asking them, how are things going? Can we send out a survey? I have a survey that I've already created that I send out to my corporate clients of kind of like a monthly check-in of how are the employees feeling? What do they want to see more of? What can we do better? How can the rolling mat improve? And then, email, one of them I'm really close with, and we kind of send texts back and forth,
Feedback.
Yeah. Just give feedback. And then that way I'm always staying fresh, and they're honest too. Like these employees, they're honest about it. And they'll say like, well, I really want more meditation, or maybe more of like slow flow, or, can she introduce a chair because it's really hard for me to get up and down off the floor, and then I do those things. So I'm constantly speaking to them, speaking to their needs. And it's not just a redundant, like, okay, like I'm not a cookie cutter, like wellness program for corporate. Like some of them are, not all of them, but some of them are. It's not just a redundant, like, okay, this is like the same vinyasa flow we did last week, we're just going to do it again. It's actually very heartfelt and heart-centered, because that's just how I am. So
there's a lot of nuggets in there for every offer, right? This like constant feedback loops. And so having a system in place, whether this client is going to be done in 8 weeks, or you might be working with them for 8 years, like seeking feedback in a systematic way so that they're feeling taken care of, heard, and you're constantly improving. I'm definitely someone who has learned to be okay with feedback. I don't like feedback. Like I haven't been trained, or I wasn't like brought up to be like, yes, tell me, and I'll just like be okay with it.
It definitely is kind of a different mindset that you got to go into,
Yeah. But if we come from this like growth mindset of like, okay, this is going to help me retain clients if I'm like in touch with them, because if you don't get feedback, then you're just like you're probably missing their needs. So I think that's a big takeaway, no matter what your program is, to build it in. Feedback.
Absolutely. Yeah. Feedback is great. And oftentimes I've gotten some really great testimonials from it as well.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So it kind of, kills two birds with one stone, if you will.
Yeah. Well, I love this. And I think this is just a super important conversation, near and dear to my heart, because I know the power of yoga. I think that if more people could just take deep breaths and love themselves, like the world would just operate so much more nicely. And especially in the era of COVID, helping yoga teachers get these practices and tools out to folks who are in massive stress, even if they're not in the office, but thinking outside of the box, ways to spread your message, your joy, because people need it and don't have the tools and expertise you might have. So as we wrap up, Stephanie, I would love to know, what is one thing that listeners can do today, whether they're a yoga teacher or entrepreneur or anything, just to get one step closer to their dream life? What's an action listeners can take today that you'd recommend?
I just feel like there's so many good ones. I really think just again, going back to that nurturing of warm market, maybe refreshing your list of people that you've worked with that maybe they've graduated from a program that you've run, maybe checking in with them and just getting into more of a habit of like DMing, like that personal communication of like, hey, how are you?
Yeah.
How are you doing? Like, I have found that my audience has appreciated that so much. Like, I'll just go through my Facebook group and I'll be like 10 a week. And I'll just say like, hey, how are things? Like,
nice.
what's being challenging right now? So I think just like nurturing the people that you have, it eventually becomes kind of like it becomes a referral program. I mean,
exactly.
There's many yoga teachers that have been referred to me by other yoga teachers because they've appreciated my output, they've appreciated my language, that my messaging that and just how I've cared for them.
Yeah.
And have taken time to really single them out and say like, hey, like, let me know how I can support you.
Yes, I love that's good in like so many ways, right? It's beautiful for your brand to be fostering those relationships. And we know that there are some people who are on the treadmill. I think you and I are treadmill types where like, I'm going to jump on, run there. Like, I need her. I'm going to invest. Like, here we go. I'll do it. And then there's people who are on the sidewalk, like window shopping, like they're watching your content for weeks go by. Okay, like kind of see what she's about. And then you get a direct message. Someone like steps out on the sidewalk and is like, hey, meeting you where you're at. That's the power of that DM. I think that's really powerful for, your brand, new business. And then what you said about reaching out to even former clients. It is way easier to enroll the same person than always be enrolling new people.
Exactly.
So that's also a huge hack, right?
Well, and people remember that too. Like, even if someone's not ready to invest in you or whatever, and you just keep that natural banter going, that natural conversation, that nurturing, they remember that, they really do. And, it's also, you also have like silent fans, it's a good way to kind of pull them out of the woodwork as well.
You took the exact phrase out of my mouth. That was exactly what I was going to say. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're kind of alike.
Yes. Well, on that note, we will wrap up. Stephanie, where can people learn more about you and the yoga and the corporate yoga work that you do?
Absolutely. So I have my awesome website that just got revamped. It's the rollingmatadventure.com. So you can check me out there. And then I do run a really awesome Facebook group with other really supportive yoga teachers and entrepreneurs, honestly. And it's the Rolling Mat Mastering the Corporate Yoga Biz on Facebook. So
amazing. Yes, you guys definitely have to check her out. She's always dropping the tangible, the concrete for all of our sometimes feminine woo-woo yoga types. Stephanie balances that so well with the actual strategies to get that work out into the world. So thank you. Good to see your face. I always appreciate chatting with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, and friends, I'll be back next week with another inspiring guest that will help make your dream life your real life. Until then, take care.